If you had to describe what Mayo does with just one word, what would that word be? Or if you had to explain who Mayo is, but you could only choose one word, what word would you choose? For me, that word would be hope. When Chris was first injured, he spent his first 5 days in ICU. And when he was in ICU, there was a doctor, and her name was Georgia. And Georgia was this small, little, scrappy, feisty thing. And I remember when Georgia would come into the room, she would literally climb up on the bed and get face to face with Chris, their noses inches apart. And she'd say, "I'm from Wyoming. And you know what? People from Wyoming don't lie." And she said, "You will get better. You will get better." And Chris and I were just talking about this last week and how much those words meant to him. And George is someone he'll never forget. Because, see, we don't want false hope. We just want hope. We just want the possibility or the opportunity for hope. Because sometimes hope is all you have. You know, I think about Mayo, and I know what you provide is health and medical-related services, but the most important thing you provide is hope. I want you to take a minute and picture yourself at the bottom of a well. You're at the bottom of this well, and it's a deep well, and it's pitch black. And the only light you can see is from this little circle of the opening up above you. And as you're at the bottom of that well, your heart's beating 100 miles an hour. You feel like there's a weight on your chest. You feel like it's hard to breathe. The walls are caving in around you. And as you're at the bottom of that well gasping for air, you hear voices up above you, and slowly this rope starts to get lowered down to you. And you grab onto that rope, and you know no matter how bad your hands are going to burn, that you're not going to let go of that rope because your life depends on it. You see, my dad died of cancer at the age of 56. My mom's battled colon cancer. In 2007, my sister's heart stopped, and thanks to CPR performed by her husband and later by the paramedics, she was able to survive, even though it was touch and go for a week. And no matter how much I love my dad and how much I love my mom and my sister, you truly don't know what it's like to be at the bottom of that well until you had your own child seriously injured. As I look around this room, I think about all the training and education represented as a group. I think about all the years in the classroom and clinicals and labs and doing research, and I give thanks for all that preparation that all of you have had for the role that you play. But I also ask you to think about the role of the patient. See, there's no training program for a patient. There's no training for the parent of a patient. It was one beautiful fall Saturday. The sun was shining. I remember the leaves had turned, and we had tailgated before the game, and my mom and my aunt and uncle and family and friends were at the game, and it was the start of the third quarter. And in an instant, we were at the bottom of that well. In a heartbeat, we went to the bottom of that well. But see, the Nortons were fortunate. We were fortunate because on the other end of that rope for us was Mayo. At the other end of that rope for us was the surgeons and the ICU nurses and Doctors Reeves and Stroman and Christofferson. At the other end of that rope for us was the rehab nurses and people like Megan and Lori and Jane and Donna and Kathy and Amy and many others. At the other end of that rope for us was some of the best of the best. I can't tell you how many times my wife and I give thanks that our son was treated at Mayo Clinic, because I truly believe he wouldn't be where he's at today if it wasn't for Mayo. And most importantly, the hope that he has for tomorrow. As you saw in the video clip and also the picture up in the upper right-hand corner, a very special day for us was September 10th. Chris had the privilege to be the honorary team captain, and it was just really a celebration of what's happened over the last 12 months and him having the opportunity to stand for the national anthem and the coin toss. I just think represented all that determination and hard work that had taken place. But what was more important to me about that day was how symbolic it was of the last 12 months, because that day Chris had his family there. He had his Mayo family there that had given up an entire Saturday to be with our family and to be with Chris, and he had his Luther family there. So it symbolized the last 12 months. And it really hit me when Chris went out for the coin toss, and standing behind him was that Mayo family that has been standing behind him for the last 12 months, and how much that meant to our family. What's interesting is just yesterday I was down in Decorah, and they were filming something for this group out of Chicago, and they had them redo the standing for the coin toss, and both captains, Obi and Kyle, that were on either side of him, commented how much better Chris stood from just a month ago. So that's progress right there. So that meant a lot to us. In closing, I want to share two final comments. One is, please, please remember, the most important thing you provide is hope. There's not many guarantees that stand up. There's not many promises in this world, but hope is something we all have to survive on. And the last thing is, whether you realize it or not, every day there's families at the bottom of that well, and they're holding onto that rope, counting on each and every one of you to be on the other end. So please hold on to the rope. Thank you.